All right, and we're live. Welcome everybody back to another live stream, our weekly live stream where we go over everything that went on in the cruise industry and kind of just do a little bit of a Q&A. That way we can kind of chat with you guys, get to know you guys and get to know me a little better. But yeah, so welcome to today's live stream. We had a good amount of news. We had a lot of good news this week in the cruise industry, which is fine, which is like a first. So we've not had a lot of good news in the cruise industry like this for quite a while. So let's see, give me one moment here. And, but yeah, let's start off with, we had, Carnival does expect to have all of their cruise ships, or Carnival Corporation expects to have all, or if not all, but the majority of their cruise ships running by the end of the year, which is very promising. So pretty much what they're kind of saying by this is that they've got, they kind of have a lot of confidence in the fact that we might get some of the CDC test cruising going first and within maybe the next few months. It's all of that's kind of been up in the air for quite a while, and I think it feels like we have been just waiting, and you know there's been a lot of back and forth between everybody, and I think we're finally starting to get somewhere with them. I know for a while it was like, yeah, no, the CDC's been for a while saying, yeah, none of the cruise lines have applied to even do any test cruising, but then the cruise lines are like, you haven't given us the information that we need for the test cruising. So it's kind of back and forth between all of them for quite a while. But glad to see that a lot of cruise lines are, Royal Caribbean actually was expecting to have some news within the next few days. Didn't seem like that ended up happening, unfortunately. But there is always next week, so maybe we'll find out soon. We also did have the cruise lines cancel, or we had Norwegian Cruise Line and Carnival Cruise Line cancel some of their May sailings. They've pretty much canceled up until June 1st. So this seems, given everything that they're saying with the CDC, you know, getting the test cruising started, it seems very realistic that if we do get cruising going, I think June sounds very, very, I guess, realistic in my opinion, at least. See, how's it going, Nick? Glad to see you made it in the chat. I think I saw you last night on my gaming live stream last night, so good to see you again. But yeah, so actually we had Norwegian kind of, Frank Del Rio chimed in a little bit this week and said that they expect once everything starts moving again, that we get all the information from the CDC, that we're looking at maybe a 90-day return to service, which basically means from the day they, you know, say, all right, you got the green light, you can start getting your ships ready, up until the day we, you know, complete the test cruises and got all the ships ready, we're probably looking about 90 days or so. So very, very promising in a way. So with that 90 days is, but from what he was saying is basically, if everything goes smoothly from this point on, we're looking at about a June 1st restart. So that's pretty much where most of the cruise lines are sitting right now anyways. So glad to see we're kind of getting towards that point, because it seems like for quite a while it's just been playing the waiting game for the most part. And one second here. What do you guys think about the you know, what's a realistic timeline as far as cruising restarted for everybody that's in the stream right now? What's a realistic timeline you guys think? Do you guys think maybe summertime? Are you thinking maybe more fall, or like fall, late end of the year type of cruising? Or as I think we're looking very good for the month of June, if not maybe July or August at the absolute latest. Because it's just I think we're getting to that point is where I think not only are the numbers starting to die down as far as COVID cases and everything. COVID obviously is still here, and it's still very much a problem. But I think the numbers are dropping, and they're starting to, I guess, kind of help the cruise lines or favor the cruise lines a little bit more as far as, getting vaccines out and, just overall case numbers and everything like that. So it's starting to look very good. I think we could be cruising fairly soon. Nick says, I hope by the summer. Yeah, summer just seems starting to feel very realistic. I think for a while there, maybe last month or maybe December or so, I think it was starting to look like, I don't know, it could be quite a while from now. But now that we've got all the vaccines are starting to go out and everything like that, whatever people's opinions are on the vaccines, that's always a different conversation. That's an argument for some people. But it's helping the cruise line, and that's pretty much what the cruise lines are saying. They're like, the vaccine news is pretty much helping us and pretty much paving the way for us to start to get cruising again. Whether or not people want to get one, it's helping the cruise lines. Let's see. Sorry about that. I feel like I'm very distracted in this stream today. But yeah, I think with what Frank Del Rio, the CEO of Norwegian, said by the 90-day return to service, I think they're saying once they do return to service or they start getting their ships ready, I think we're looking closer to, I think they're kind of saying maybe once or one ship to two ships every week or so as everything starts to get going again. They could be full capacity by the end of the year. So not only does Carnival think that they could have all their ships going by the end of the year, but we also have Norwegian. And I think Royal Caribbean, because they've already got one of their ships going, the Quantum, over in Singapore, I think they're ready to kind of lead the way. I think all of them are kind of ready to go, but I think Royal Caribbean is the one that's the most eager to get going again. I think because they have a ship going already, they know what they're doing over there is working. So I think they're ready to prove themselves over here. Robbie, is this a Krusty Krab? No, this is Patrick. But yeah, I think June, July is very, very plausible or very optimistic for the cruise lines. I would say Royal Caribbean might be one of the first ones to go again or start cruising again, but I don't think Carnival or Norwegian would be too far behind. Despite all the news that we got that some of their Norwegian ships are going back to Asia to take some of the crew members home. But then again, on the other hand, I guess to kind of counter against that, we did have Frank Del Rio say that, we're looking at maybe a 90-day window. Whenever that window starts, we're still looking about 90 days, which is always really nice, I guess, because it's just not going to be an overnight thing. And I think that's what the cruise lines have been trying to kind of tell the CDC a little bit more, is that it's not going to be an overnight thing. We're trying to get ready, but we need some information before we're able to get ready. But I think once the process is started, I think 90 days is it's obviously plenty of time for the cruises to get going again, especially with the test cruises, because we do have to the cruise lines are required to be doing those test cruises whenever we, I guess, resume sailings again. Because that's pretty much just the requirement. They've got to have several test sailings for every ship before they go out. And it's very, I guess it does take up a good amount of time. And, obviously it'll take probably about a week or so, depending on how long these test cruises will take or how long they last. I don't know if these test cruises are going to be like 3-4 days, whether or not they'll be about 7. I'd probably say shorter, but you never know. Maybe 7 days is probably what they're looking for. Robbie says Norwegian target is crew back by July and a phased start by September. Interesting. Interesting. It's that's fairly realistic. I think. The crew back by July would definitely be. Crew back by July is definitely reasonable. It does stink that they do have to. They are starting to take some of the crew members home though. I know Encore is well on her way now to start taking some of the crew members home. I think she was in France earlier this week, I believe. And then Norwegian Joy is, thankfully, it kind of makes it a little easier on Norwegian that they got flights for the crew on Norwegian Joy, which is nice. That way they can kind of keep the ship there. That way, if things do start up around whatever time window they are looking, then, the ship's already here. She doesn't have to sail all the way across the world, basically, like Encore does. But yeah, it's very reasonable. I'd say phased restart by August, September would be very likely, I guess. We definitely want to see cruising within the next few months. Let's see. Thankfully, Aruba's been very accommodating. Yeah, I think Aruba, for some reason, has been, very thankfully, they've been very good to all the cruise lines. A lot of Norwegian ships have actually been hanging out there for a while. Clearly, Robbie, that couple of Norwegian ships have been there for quite a while, especially Norwegian Joy. It's very, I guess, good. Some of these countries that the cruise lines have been going into to take some of their crew members home, they're like, oh, yeah, no, sorry, we can't really, no flights. You can't get your crew off. Sorry. I know your crew members are, live in this country and everything, but we really don't want them off the ships or anything like that. So I know for the longest time, it was very, very hard to even, have a port even accept some of these ships to even come in or drop people off. It felt like a miracle once some of the crew members finally started getting off these ships. But it is very interesting that they're planning for July because, it feels like Royal Caribbean is almost ready to go whenever, like, the moment they say, okay, get the test cruises going. It feels like for some reason the way Royal Caribbean has been, talking about these things over the last week or so, they feel like they're ready to pretty much go the second they're ready to go, almost. So I definitely, like I said a minute ago, I think Royal probably will be the first ones. They'd definitely be the first ones. I don't think Carnival will be too far behind either. Carnival seems to have all their ships ready to go. Because of the shutdown, or I guess not the shutdown, but the cancellation of the month of May for Carnival, which is actually going into the next thing here. And one of the other videos that we did, the Mardi Gras maiden voyage was originally in May, and because of the May cancellations, that the Mardi Gras was pretty much delayed again. Her main voyage to June 5th. And with that start date, it kind of sounds like that the Mardi Gras might be one of their first ships going, which is interesting because she's going to be in Port Canaveral. It's, I've always thought that the Mardi Gras, or the first ship to sail, would probably be out of Miami, which seems very, realistic or almost kind of like a given. But if it's going to be Mardi Gras, then she's definitely going to be out of Port Canaveral because of the natural gas. She can't go out of Miami. So I'm excited just to have, an idea that ship might be even going again or starting to go for the first time. Let's see. Tyler says, did you hear that the Cozumel Mayor claims that major cruise lines plan to sail from there in May? It's a very interesting story, as the mayor hinted at Royal Caribbean Group. I know they were saying that for a while. I know they were hinting more towards MSC. I did not hear anything about the month of May, though. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, that Cozumel has pretty much been like, if you're not going to allow them coming in here or, sailing out of the U.S. to come here, why don't we just have them come here and sail from here? Because definitely, it would open up a very different variety of stops or different, I guess, itineraries that you could do. Because it always takes about a day or so to get into Cozumel. But if you're going to start in Cozumel, you're already, a couple hours from Belize. You're you're about a day or so from Honduras. So would that open up maybe like, a Cozumel to like Aruba type of thing, The itineraries are definitely what I'm most interested in when it comes to like sailing out of Cozumel, because there's definitely a lot of ways they could go out of there. It would cut down a lot of time. Like, it's almost like cruising out of San Juan, because San Juan, when you cruise out of there, most ships, or at least like when I sailed out of San Juan, we were on the Carnival Victory. That was years ago, but because we were in San Juan and our first stop was St. Thomas, which is like literally, a few hours away, we didn't have to leave the port till like late at night. I think we left around 10 or 11 o'clock at night that night. But, all the ships or all the ports were there. Like, we had one sea day that entire cruise just because of how close those ports were. So I could definitely see something similar to that kind of situation, as far as, where the itineraries, what the itineraries would be, and then what the ports would look like, with some of these sailings from Cozumel. I definitely think it'd be very, very interesting, especially because as a, I guess, embarkation and debarkation standpoint, there's no major terminals there. So I'm really wondering how they would go as far as getting people on and off the ships, how many ships and how big of a ship they can really handle whenever they do start sailing out of Cozumel, if they do that. But yeah, I have seen Cozumel pushing a lot, and I'm very excited for it. I'm very interested to see what they do over there. Let's see, what other questions we got? Tyler says again, speaking of Port Canaveral, Brandon, did you hear that they finally got the natural gas barge in Port Canaveral? I thought I had seen something about that. That's very exciting to see. I know they had like a ceremony for it. I think it was just a few days ago, because they had, I guess obviously they need natural gas. So Port Canaveral is the first U.S. port to have natural gas, which is extremely exciting. That's why Mardi Gras was pretty much picked to go to Port Canaveral first, was because they were going to have the ability to pretty much handle a natural gas ship. So yeah, that's really exciting. I saw that recently, and it's very promising. Hopefully Mardi Gras will get here soon. I know she's still sitting over in Barcelona, kind of waiting around. I don't know if I know they're still working on the ship just a little bit to get it ready, but who knows if they're, trying to get things modified for, COVID cruising or anything like that. But definitely very exciting to see that they finally got like the access to natural gas, because that means maybe we'll see Mardi Gras come in soon. Robbie says, you honestly don't even need cruise terminals. I boarded the Epic legit out of a warehouse in San Juan. Yeah, San Juan's terminal is very. Were you on like the far side? Because when I sailed out of Port Canaveral, thinking of Port Canaveral right now. When I sailed out of the terminal in San Juan, we were pretty much like at that main terminal where that like building is, where most of the ships will dock in San Juan. So like that was like a little mini terminal, but it was very small. So, but yeah, I guess you just have to have some sort of setup. It really doesn't take. You're not going to be looking at maybe like a Terminal A or Terminal B in Miami that can get these ships to go, but I guess you just have to have something in place. So yeah, it's definitely possible. They could get something set up, especially if it's only going to be a temporary thing. And, I think they even said, if it's that successful there and things go well, maybe they could put a terminal over there, and maybe they could have like a ship sailing out of there full time. I could see. I always just have a feeling that MSC is going to be the one that does that, just because of how different they like to do things. So if it was anybody, I would say maybe MSC is the first one, but I could definitely see Royal Caribbean doing that as well. Again, like I keep saying, Royal Caribbean just seems like they're ready to go, like at any moment notice that they get, just any chance they can get to sail, they'll take it, which is, it's exciting. And I think it just it kind of like almost reassures that they're ready to go, and, they have confidence in what they're doing. And as far as getting all the COVID cruises going, how all the testing, all their protocols, they're confident that it works. Obviously, they've shown that it works in Singapore on the Quantum. Quantum had a scare, like right when she first started sailing. but obviously everything came back negative. Nothing happened. And so, I mean, we never really had any issues with the Quantum, and, things seem to be still going well over in Europe as well. I know supposedly there was a case on board Grandiosa just about a week or two ago, but because all the protocols were in place and everything worked smoothly, they were able to isolate that guest that did have a case, or that did test positive. They were able to isolate everybody that was in close contact. All the contact tracing that went on, I guess, that they're trying to implement right now. I think that MSC uses like wristbands or something like that, but they were pretty much quickly able to identify like who that guest was in contact with throughout the cruise, and they were able to isolate them and everything like that. So the protocols worked, and I feel like that's why we didn't hear too much about it, is because everything worked. There wasn't an outbreak. We just saw the one case. So I think that was almost like the best news, almost in a way. As weird as that sounds, I think seeing that there was a case on board a ship and that the protocols worked, I think was almost better news than the fact that there's protocols in place, or the fact that we're even having, the thought of cruising. Let's see. Best of Boats World's ACL ships don't even dock at a terminal. They just dock at a public dock, and people board the ship from there. Where does ACL stand? Where do they sail from? Because I'm not too familiar with American Cruise Line. And I guess they're, a smaller cruise line for sure, but I'm not too familiar with them, actually. But yeah, with smaller ships, they can definitely just kind of hop into wherever they wanted to and just board people. Okay, Robbie said Pan American dock, so not really the old San Juan dock like most ships go to. That's interesting. That's kind of odd that they would kind of sit, especially with a ship as big as Epic. It's, there's so many people that get on that ship that it seems like you would need a lot, or like a big terminal to get so many people on and off a ship. But I guess as long as you got to keep the line moving, everybody gets their documents in place, then you just need to keep the line moving is really, I guess, the name of the game when it comes to, embarkation and debarkation day. So that's really cool. I never really thought of that. Remember that was your last cruise, wasn't it? The Norwegian Epic out of San Juan. But yeah, I think. Let's see. Tyler says, yeah, kind of cool how ACL does that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure like what ports they come out of or anything like that, but that seems like a really cool concept that they can just kind of go up to wherever and just kind of start taking on passengers. But hold on. Sorry, I was kind of dying there for a little bit. I need to take a sip. But yeah, I've always been interested in the whole Cozumel, them trying to get ships going out of there, because it's definitely possible, and they seem eager, and I think they know that the cruise lines are ready to go, and I think they know that their stuff works. Let's see. Robbie says they had to modify the pier to accommodate her. They needed barges in between the pier, and that way the lifeboats don't hit the. Yeah, the whole design of Epic is quite kind of crazy, I guess. With the lifeboats hanging over like that, it's pretty insane that they had to. They hang out. I'm surprised they don't hit almost everything when they're docking. I know they have pretty much almost never get to go to New York because there's no way for them to go in without hitting the terminals there. Those lifeboats, just the way they're positioned, they look like they're just tacked onto the side of the ship almost. It's crazy. At least like some of the ships like that have the hanging. I guess like the hanging lifeboats, if you want to call it that. And most of them have the lanai deck, or like the waterfront area. That way they have the extended deck basically that comes out over the side that pretty much covers them. But on the Epic, like they don't have that. It's just a lifeboat. Just looks like it's glued to the side of the ship almost. It's kind of crazy how they designed that ship. Let's see. Last time the Epic was in New York City, it was 2010. It took 2 hours to put the lifeboats down just to get alongside Pier 88. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's crazy that they even... I'm surprised they even let the ship come into New York for that. I mean, it's pretty crazy. You know, I think that was a very short, design period where they did ships like that. I know for a while, like the Oasis class kind of have them hanging down a little bit. The Carnival's Dream and Vista class have them down, hanging a little bit like that too. I don't think that design lasted too long. Obviously, we saw on the Breakaway Plus class ships, with the exception of Escape, all of them started getting moved in, but that's more for the Panama Canal. But yeah, I think the entire design of Norwegian Epic has always kind of thrown me off. It's such a weird ship. And I heard they were supposed, maybe Rob, you can kind of confirm this. I heard there was supposed to be a second Epic ship, and I think there was maybe some issues with the shipyard. I think they ended up canceling the order on that second one. But I think after seeing the Epic and all the challenges just the ship faces because of the design, I'm not surprised at all that there's not a second one of these ships, because it's just it's a weird ship in every way that you can think about it. It's a weird ship. Let's see. Charlie says, it's good to see cruise ships around where I live in the UK, because they're often in America or around Italy. Yeah, a lot of them are sitting off the coast over in the UK and so, or around that area. I know, like Anthem of the Seas, I believe, Harmony and Allure. I think Allure might still be over there in the UK. I'm not sure. But yeah, like a lot of ships, a lot of P&O ships have been over up there. I think Carnival ships have been up there. I think the Valor's been up there for a little bit as well, I believe. So, but yeah, the UK is getting a lot of different ships up there as well. I know a lot of ships that normally aren't in like the port of Miami or any ports like in Florida as well are seeing ships that haven't been there in years. Like Carnival Dream has been coming into Port of Miami. She's never been in Miami before. She's pretty much, she debuted in Port Canaveral. Then she spent the last few years over in New Orleans. So it's very weird, to see some of these ships, because some of the ships are just in places and ports that you'd never think they would be, or places they've been basically for the first time ever. And some of these are pretty old ships. Like Carnival Dream is almost like a 12-year-old ship now, and she's just now, this is the first time she's ever come into the Port of Miami. Let's see. What do you think of cruising with MSC in Europe? They cater a lot to the European market. I know here in the United States, they get a lot of mixed reviews because of their heavy European influence. But a lot of people that go on MSC as well are, I guess, coming over from Europe. So I think I've always wanted to try MSC. I guess it's with them putting more ships here as well, it's even more tempting. But I hear a lot of great things about them. I think the only negative things that I've heard about the ship are just because of their heavy European influence that they have, being an Italian cruise line pretty much. But I've always wanted to try them. I'd love to maybe in the near future once cruising gets going again. Best of Both Worlds. I've heard there was a mini cruise that goes from Delaware to Cape May, New Jersey. Interesting. That's pretty cool. Robbie says, Epic is awkward because of the lifeboats were deck 6 versus deck 7 on the newer ships. Oh, that's also a good point there. I mean, surely they definitely made sure that didn't happen again. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't realize they were that decked lower than normal. I guess that's also a big factor there. I'm sure most of the other ships, like the Escape and all that, can kind of sit the lifeboats a little bit over the side because they're a little taller. But that's very funny. I mean, yeah, just everything about Norwegian Epic is just the you know, the wildest thing. I mean, the the ship has curved staterooms. They're like in an S shape, and that's always been the weirdest thing for me. And then you got the giant forehead looking thing on the front of the ship. You know, I think that's like, isn't that the Haven area? Or I think there's some suites up there. But like, yeah, it looks like the ship just basically has a giant forehead, and it's just a weird looking ship. And every aspect of Epic is just weird. My grandparents went on the ship. They weren't a huge fan. But yeah, it's an interesting ship. Jackson says, "What is your favorite ship I've been on?" My favorite ship that I've been on so far is definitely Norwegian Bliss. I think just the Breakaway Plus class ships in general are some of the best ships out there. Norwegian Bliss, I spent 15 days on board. I wouldn't say I've spent the most time on her because I've been on a couple ships 3 different times. But I did spend 15 days on board Norwegian Bliss, and that was back in 2018 when she was like brand new. I did do the inaugural Panama Canal sailing over from Miami to Los Angeles. And just everything about the ship. I mean, the only thing I wasn't a huge fan of on the ship was the fact that there was 8 sea days out of the 15 days. So, I mean, having way too many sea days is really like nothing against the ship at all. I mean, the ship was absolute fun. I mean, it has a go-kart track of all things. The laser tag as well. I know the Encore has an even bigger racetrack and an even bigger laser tag arena. They've even got Galaxy Pavilion, which is like that huge arcade place or arcade like area on the ship. So yeah, I hands down I would have to say Norwegian Bliss. The food on board was great. I think the only thing that was really bad about the ship was the stateroom person that we had was kind of lacking. It took her forever to clean the room, but besides that, like the ship was absolutely amazing in every way you looked at it. To this day, I love the Norwegian Bliss. So yeah, to answer your question, I think Norwegian Bliss is probably the best one I've been on, or any ship like her, like the Escape, the Joy, the Encore. I toured the Escape. Thank you, Robbie. I toured the Escape, and I haven't been on the Joy or the Encore at all, but it's a lot of all those ships are pretty much the same, and they're all just amazing ships. Escape was such a nice ship as well. Hey, Paul, how's it going? Glad to see you in the chat. Charlie says, what's your opinion on the new Virgin Voyages terminal construction and blueprint? It's a very interesting place where they're putting it, right at the end of the, almost in the turning basin. The terminal looks great, though. It's very good to see them actually building a terminal for themselves. That way they're not trying to borrow somebody else's. Because I think Port of Miami is almost becoming like you need to have your own terminal if you're wanting to come here. Because MSC is building their own terminal, Royal Caribbean's got their own terminal, and they also use something they kind of shared towards the end. What is there? They've got Norwegian Encore as well, they have Norwegian's Terminal B. I don't know why I said Encore. But yeah, Norwegian's got their own terminal. They also own Terminal C, or they operate out of there. Carnival's about to have 3 different terminals once F is fully upgraded. So, but from the images and the renderings and everything I've seen for the new Virgin Voyages one, it looks very, very nice. I'd still like to try out Virgin Voyages. They seem so different. I'm almost kind of afraid to try them out, but at the same time, I feel like, you can't knock it until you try it. So I definitely like to try out Virgin Voyages soon. They're coming up on delivery of their Valiant Lady, which is their second ship. So they still have not really taken their first passengers of the ship yet. They haven't really had any guest sailings yet. They did the one showcase sailing or not, showcase event basically over in the UK, but that's about it. You know, once the ship got over here, it was, you know, we shut down. And then, you know, Valiant Lady's pretty much done. She's gonna be, you know, delivered in next couple months, I believe. And so they're gonna have their second ship basically make its debut at pretty much at the same time as the first ship does. And their third ship is already pretty much well into construction. Like, the ship is, you know, they're going vertical. The blocks are being put in place. Like, it's probably a couple months from floating out. I mean, they're pretty far along with the ship, and they've got a fourth one on order as well. It's absolutely amazing what Virgin Voyages is doing. Robbie says, that's a thing of the past. Yeah, ship tours are definitely a thing of the past. I am very upset by that. And that's, I think, what hurts the most, is because ship tours were like the absolute most fun thing to me. You know, I get a lot of questions like, how do I do it? How do I get all these? And it's kind of like, you just have to know certain people. But, you know, like when we did the Carnival ones, we had to do with, always had to go with Justin basically, because he worked at the Port of Tampa. And that was just kind of a benefit, is that he had to go have lunch on the ship. And basically what we would do is that we would pretty much just tour the ship and just run around the ship for the whole day. So, but yeah, that's definitely a thing in the past, at least for quite a while, because of COVID. You know, they're not going to let a couple of random dudes with cameras just run around the ship for a couple hours before it leaves port. I think that's the most upsetting thing that's come out of the whole shutdowns, is that, you know, ship tours are definitely not a thing for me, at least unless I'm actually sailing on the ship, which, you know, I'd always rather sail on the ship, but, you know, I'd always love spending the day on board a ship. Is probably one of the most fun things as well. And I guess my last cruise was the Carnival Horizon back in 2019. So I'm almost coming up on 2 years without a cruise now. But the last time I was on a ship, I did a ship tour on the Carnival Conquest. That was, you know, October of 2019. That's kind of like the last time I've ever even seen a ship in person. I haven't really been to Miami or anything like that. I haven't done a whole lot of traveling. Obviously, I mean, you're not really supposed to do a whole lot of traveling right now, but, you know, I haven't really been to any of the ports in forever, which, you know, really stinks. So I'd love to go sometime soon, though. It's just trying to find a good time to go and just make sure, you know, things are actually safe and all that, you know, COVID again is still here. Charlie says Disney could be making their own terminal on the opposite side as well. Is not confirmed yet. Yeah, I actually did a video recently on all the new terminals coming up to Port of Miami, and I did include Disney into that. Yeah, I heard they're supposed to do it on the south side of terminal. I think they were going to call it Terminal K or something like that. The interesting thing about that is, if they did build that terminal, they would make it eligible for, or I guess capable of holding liquefied natural gas, which would put the new Triton class ships like the Disney Wish, that would put them in the picture of possibly being home ported in Port of Miami, which is really cool. So, yeah, I kind of hope they would put something there. I think with them adding 3 more ships onto their fleet, which is currently only made up of 4 ships, I think I feel like it'd be in their best interest and maybe very reasonable for them to put a port in Miami, or a terminal in Miami. I know they have been putting ships there before, usually just seasonally, like throughout the summer or something like that, or just randomly. But they've just kind of bounced those ships around between ports, or between terminals. So I definitely think Disney needs their own terminal in Miami, even though they mostly base all their ships out of Port Canaveral, and that's just because that's so close to Disney. I think they definitely need their own terminal over in Miami. But I've also heard that they possibly might work with MSC and just like kind of sublease their new terminal that they're building for all their the MSC World class ships. So that's a possibility as well. But yeah, I would love to see a Disney terminal in Miami, especially on that side, because they only put very, very small ships over there. That's just because there's not a whole lot of room. Let's see. Andrew says, "Hi, Brandon. Me and my family have our first cruise going on the Western Caribbean on the NCL Breakaway March 27, 2022, leaving out in New Orleans." That's going to be an awesome cruise. The Breakaway, you can ask Robbie here. He's been on the Breakaway, 20 times? Like, I think literally 20 times he's been on Breakaway. But that class of ship is amazing. The Breakaway is a nice ship. I've been on her sister, the Getaway, twice. Love that ship. And New Orleans is hands down one of my favorite places to sail out of. It's a very, very unique experience sailing out of New Orleans. It's especially because Breakaway is so big. She's, I think, the biggest ship to actually sail out of New Orleans. But because New Orleans is located so far up the Mississippi River, you're going to be sailing down a very, very narrow, the Mississippi River is pretty narrow. So, if there's any ships that you're going to be passing by, going down the river, it's a very close pass. So you're in for a great cruise. And I would love to sail out of Breakaway out of New Orleans. It sounds like a great time. So you'll have especially for your first cruise, you're in for a great time. Robbie says, maybe it'll still be possible unofficially. Yeah. Maybe we could work something out with ship tours. Jackson, what new ship that is under construction am I most excited for to start sailing? There's so many ships under construction. I would probably say Celebration if the Mardi Gras wasn't already finished. We already see a ship exactly like Celebration, which is the Mardi Gras. So I think with that in mind, I think I'm leaning more towards the Project Leonardo ships, and I'm sure Robbie's, excited for those ships just a little bit. We're actually going to be getting some news hopefully soon on the Project Leonardo ships. I'm very excited for that. And I think Project Leonardo ships, I'm most excited for. Hopefully we get a lot of news on that soon. It's going to be very fun. It's going to be a very great ship. So, yeah. I mean, the Icon class is also very high up there, but I think because I love Norwegian Cruise Line so much, I'm going to pick them over the Icon project. Plus, we have no idea about anything with the Icon project either yet. But I can guarantee that's going to be an amazing ship as well. Let's see. Charlie says, what cruise ships have you not been on and would like to go on in the future? I think kind of going back to why I love the Norwegian Bliss so much, I think Norwegian Joy and Encore I would love to go on, just because of how much I like that class of ships. Any of the Quantum class ships from Royal Caribbean are absolutely amazing. I would say, let's see, any of the Oasis class. I've been on Oasis of the Seas. I was supposed to go on Symphony last year. Any Oasis class ship is just amazing to me. Unfortunately, my cruise on Symphony got canceled, so I would still love to sail on any of the Oasis class. I was supposed to sail on Mardi Gras as well. That didn't happen either, so... but ships, I guess, going off of ships that were, sailing before the pandemic started or before the shutdown started, I would probably say either the Joy, Encore, or any of the Quantum class ships from Royal. I just love, actually, if it shows how much I like the Breakaway Plus class ships or just how much I love the Norwegian Joy, I actually, in the middle of a semester of college, I pretty much took the weekend. I flew to Miami because it was the first time Joy was ever in the port of Miami. And so I pretty much just flew down to Miami for the weekend just to see the ship because I had never seen it before. I guess maybe part of it was because the ship's always been in Miami or always been in China up until 2019. But I absolutely love the Norwegian Joy. She's got the best artwork out of any of the Norwegian ships so far. Robbie says Leonardo 1 is going to blow everybody away. Oh, I know. I don't think anybody's ready for what the Project Leonardo ships are going to I think what they're going to have on board and what they're pretty much going to do for the entire industry, and I think for Norwegian Cruise Line. I don't think anybody's ready for what Project Leonardo is gonna bring. Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully we get some news soon. I know, there's a lot of stuff that's being hidden right now. Let's see. Charlie says, for my first cruise, what would you recommend since you're the expert and person to ask this? This is always kind of an interesting, like, I guess, topic, because I would always recommend maybe like an Oasis class ship or something like that. But at the same time, I feel like if you sailed on an Oasis class ship from Royal the first time, you'd almost be spoiled, But I would say if you're not worried about seasickness or anything like that, you're just ready to like get out there, I would definitely say any Breakaway Plus class ship from Norwegian, or maybe a Quantum class or Oasis class. Or actually, I would say I would hold the Oasis class maybe for a second or third cruise, but I would say maybe a Freedom class. That way you at least get a taste of what Royal Caribbean has to offer. But either Freedom class from Royal Caribbean or Breakaway Plus from Norwegian Cruise Line, and maybe the newer Carnival ships as well. Anything that's relatively new would be great for a first cruise, honestly. I think mainly because they've got so much on board. I think, cruises have always gotten the misconception of being, there's nothing to do on board, and, they're just pretty boring. Whenever you go on board, there's really nothing to do except play shuffleboard or, go to a casino. And I think every new ship that's been coming out over the last, last 5 years or so has pretty much been putting that misconception, or it's been putting that to rest. I mean, we've got ships that have like free falling water slides. We've got go-karts on a cruise ship now, on several cruise ships, and got more go-kart tracks coming soon. We've also got roller coasters, of all things. We got a roller coaster on board a cruise ship. So anything that's been built within the last maybe 5 or so years would be a great first cruise. So anything that's relatively new, especially from any of the major cruise lines. Let's see. I would suggest a 7-day cruise for the first time, nothing less than 5. Because time will go by so quick. You'll be waiting to go for more. Yeah, unless I would say the only reason I would suggest a shorter cruise for a first cruise is if you're worried about being seasick. If you're worried about being seasick, I would go on something short just to make sure you don't get seasick first. But yeah, if you're not worried about being seasick, you're just ready to you just want to try out cruising and you are ready to get out there. Yeah, any 7-day cruise, or maybe even 8. I know Carnival offers some pretty great 8-night itineraries out of Miami. 7 or 8 days would be absolutely perfect for a first cruise. Let's see. Alex 61695. Hey Brandon, sorry I'm late. How are you? I'm doing good. Where's Belle? My cat? I don't know where she is. She didn't jump up in the stream this time. She's like to jump up in the camera the last couple streams, but I haven't seen her. I'm not sure where she's hiding, but she's been playing around a lot and running around the apartment a lot, so maybe she's just a little tired. Let's see, Andrew, we had an NCL cruise on the Joy in 2020 and had to switch it to the Bliss, and then now the Breakaway, hopefully March 27th. So yeah, definitely by March 2022, you're looking at, the cruise isn't going to be canceled or anything like that, but the two ships, Joy and Bliss, are some of the best ships out there as well. So, yeah, great ships that you're picking with, especially with Norwegian. Any other new ships are going to be absolutely a great time. Andrew also says, I have a question about Norwegian. Is the ice cream machine open 24/7? I believe so. It's been I guess it's been since like 2018 since I've been on a Norwegian ship, but from what I remember, I believe so. If they do shut down the ice cream machines, I believe it's like after midnight or so Maybe Robbie, he's in the chat a lot. He's been on hundreds of Norwegian cruises, so he can kind of confirm that hopefully. But I believe it's at least open until midnight. I'm not sure if it's 24/7 though. Let's see. Those things will change after cruising will go away. Yeah, for sure. Okay, Robbie says after 10 p.m. the ice cream shuts down. So I mean, most of the day, but yeah, I think Carnival struck gold there. I think that's one of the best things about Carnival is that they do have the 24/7 ice cream. I can't tell you how many times I've jumped up out of my bed at like 12 o'clock midnight if I'm even gone away, if I'm not still like out running around the ship at midnight, I think there's been several occasions where I've jumped out of bed and been like, I'm going to go get some ice cream. But yeah, Norwegian does keep their ice cream open for the most part, or the majority of the cruise at least. But yeah, it looks like 10 p.m. is when they shut that down. Let's see. You haven't missed too much. We just kind of been going over, everything that's going on in the industry, all the shutdowns and all that. So you haven't missed a whole lot. We're just kind of chatting back and forth now here in our chat here. Let's see. Charlie says, I would try Disney as a first cruise, but I feel like that just spoils the experience and because it's more for kids. Yeah, I mean, my second and third cruise, I was extremely young whenever this was, but my second and third cruise was with Disney. I think I was like 2 or 3 whenever that, they were the inaugurals basically for Magic and Wonder. So I was extremely young back when those ships were brand new. But the only thing that turns me away from a Disney cruise, and I absolutely love Disney. I worked, at Disney World for about a year. And so I love the company and everything like that. It's the only thing that turns me away from cruising on them is because they are fairly expensive. They do a great job though at separating the kids and adult areas. So having as worrying about like kids running around, there are going to be a lot of kids on board, but I think they do a fairly good job at making sure that doesn't, I guess, take away from the experience as well. But yeah, I would love to try Disney again. I would love to book the Wish for 2022 when she's first comes out. Really, the only thing with Disney is that their prices are just crazy. And but I think I mentioned this on a recent stream, but the Disney Wish, and one of my roommates from my Disney college program, he actually went on to do like an internship with their Imagineering team, which is like basically their engineers. He actually worked on Project Triton and the Triton class cruise ships for them. So basically he worked and like kind of helped with the whole design process of the Disney Wish, which is like the coolest thing to me. So but yeah, he pretty much told me those ships are going to be absolutely breathtaking. So I'm excited for all the new Disney ships. Let's see. Do you see them having machines open after we go back to cruising, or will they have somebody serve it to them? And then Robbie chimed in, likely to be served from here on out. Yeah, I could definitely see that, especially because like with cones too. I mean, people grab cones with their hands, and there's definitely be a lot of changes, especially when it comes to food. Whenever we do start cruising again. I think from what I've seen on MSC, where they've got the buffets lined out to where, instead of where people can grab the tongs and like grab food and put it on their plate themselves, they've got that completely blocked off to where you can at least see the food, but then you pretty much tell the person behind the counter, like, hey, I want that, and they serve it to you, which I kind of hope that sticks around because that just seems a lot cleaner in general. But yeah, there's gonna be the most changes we're gonna see is when it comes to food, and yeah, especially with ice cream, there's definitely gonna be someone serving it whenever we get back to cruising, because I personally would not want anybody, or I guess, to grab a cone, but somebody before me has pretty much touched the cone or something, So it's just gonna be a little bit cleaner, especially having somebody else serve it to me. So I hope that kind of sticks around a little bit. I know it's always fun to just run up and grab the ice cream whenever the heck you want, but you kind of have to take sanitation measures, especially right now. But from a sanitation standpoint, I hope that kind of sticks around where somebody gives it to you. I know when I was on Oasis, back in 2015, they actually had somebody serving it to us, which is very weird, but that's also Royal. They do things weird. Let's see. Norwegian also has Blue Lagoon, or that it was called when I sailed on the Gem. That was 24 hours. They had a really good brownie sundae. Oh, that sounds really good. I know Coco's was like a chocolate restaurant or on the Bliss. That was really, really good. We had they had some stuff kind of like that. They had like a lot of chocolate, stuff. I know my sister and I had a chocolate milkshake, absolute massive milkshake. It had chocolate dripping on the side. It had like gummy bears stick to it. And I thought I was gonna get like diabetes or something like that, with that milkshake. But they have something similar to that now. It's more of like a chocolate shop, chocolate factory type of thing now. But that sounds really good. Let's see. Norwegian's doing a total menu change and a total revamp. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what they do. I loved what was on their menu originally, but I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things that they're gonna, I guess, put in place or start serving that's gonna be a little bit, more sanitary for sure. Jackson says, "What is my favorite port to sail out of?" Kind of touched on it earlier, but I think Port of New Orleans is my favorite place to go out of, just because of starting so far up the Mississippi River and sailing down. I really enjoy sailing out of Miami just because there's always more ships there, and I always love just kind of seeing all the different cruise ships. But I think my favorite one to sail out of is definitely New Orleans, just because of sailing down the Mississippi River is just a really, really neat and unique experience for that port. Have I been on the MSC Seaview class of ships? No, I have not. I have not been on any MSC ships actually. It's I've still really wanted to try them, but I think I've seen the MSC Seaside a couple times, and I don't think I've seen Meraviglia yet, but they look like great ships. I hear really good things, especially about Seaside, because she's more Americanized as far as all the MSC ships. I know a lot of their ships are focused on Europe because most of them spend the most time over in Europe. But from what I've heard and what kind of it seems like, they more point the Seaside class and the Seaview and all that towards like the American market, at least, which is why they don't, most of their ships are more Italian named and Italian themed. They always have the A at the end, like Meraviglia, Grandiosa, Virtuosa, all that. But the Seaview, the Seaside, I think it's the Seaview, Seashore, Seaside, all those are more American, I guess. But I hear great things about those ships. I'd love to try some out. Let's see. Looking forward to 2023 Vloggers Cruise from New Orleans, which I have not done yet. Yeah, you're in for a great time. It's what ship is the Vloggers Cruise on? That is yeah, that sounds. I mean, anything out of New Orleans is gonna be really cool. Let's see. Blue Lagoon was very special. Not many remember it anymore. Yeah, I have no idea what Blue Lagoon is, but it sounds really good. If they've got a chocolate sundae or something, or what is it, a chocolate sundae? Yeah, it's I mean, that you've already won me over. I'm a sucker for any sort of ice cream or any sort of sweets. Okay, NCL Breakaway. That sounds like an awesome cruise, especially that's such a big ship for New Orleans. That's gonna be a great time, and you're gonna be passing other cruise ship. If there's gonna be other ships in the next day, you're gonna be passing those ships probably later in the night, and you're gonna be very close whenever you pass by. So that's gonna be really, really cool. Let's see. Yeah, they had a really good menu. Never tried the food, but the sundae was good. Yeah, it just sounds good.
And
I'm glad to have you in the stream. Have a good one. Let's see what else we have. So kind of touched on it before, but I know we do have more people in the chat here and more people watching the stream. So kind of over the last week, we did have some more cancellations with some of the cruise lines. We're looking right now at a June 1st startup for some of these cruise lines. Royal Caribbean seems pretty eager to get going. They still have not canceled the month of May yet, but with Norwegian and Carnival both canceling, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them soon. But hopefully we hear from the CDC shortly. Royal Caribbean keeps kind of like reassuring us that we're going to get news from the CDC soon. What else? I guess on the topic of not Norwegian. I keep thinking Norwegian for some reason. We did have, speaking of Royal Caribbean is what I meant to say. We did have Odyssey of the Seas, did the river conveyance last night. That was super, super cool. I did a video pretty much explaining the whole process of that. You know, the river conveyance is such a unique thing for the ships that are built over in Meyerwerft in Papenburg, Germany. Basically, they're taking these massive ships, and we're not talking like just average sized. We're talking like some of the largest ships in the world are basically being pulled and tugged up the river for like a very, very narrow river for like, I think it was 6 or 8 hours for something like that. And pretty much that way they can get out to sea because that shipyard is several hours inland. So they've got to like pretty much pull that ship up a very shallow and very narrow river to get the ships out there so they can start the sea trials and stuff like that. So like, I know they've got to like wait for a full moon basically. So like the tides are at their highest and the ships or the winds have to be very low. So, you know, the ship's not being blown over all over the place. You know, I think they have to wait for the tide just because of how little bit of clearance there is, you know, whenever they're pulling the ship up the river, how shallow it is. And then there's several spots as well, you know, for the wind. There's a couple spots where they have to like pass through some like, you know, open bridges and stuff like that where, you know, there's like several feet on each side, especially just getting out of the shipyard alone. You know, there's a very, very narrow spot where they have to get the ship out of. So Odyssey of the Seas going up the river. You know, if you guys are bored later, just type in Odyssey of the Seas river conveyance and it is an absolutely crazy thing to watch. You know, I know back in 2015, the Norwegian Escape did the river conveyance because it was built there. And there's actually a point where, you know, because they had to use the engines of the ship to kind of help maneuver a little bit, the power of the ship actually like sank one of the tugboats that were like on the kind of like off to the side. You know, it was really, really funny to see and like really crazy. But, you know, it's really, really cool to watch. You know, anything that's been built in Meyerwerft in Papenburg, Germany, you know, if you type in, you know, the ship name and river conveyance, you know, it's very, very cool to watch. You know, not only that, but when they're built inside of a building, basically. So they've got to, like, pull these massive ships out of, like, a giant hall, basically. So I think anything that comes out of that shipyard is always just really fun to watch being built. Because some of the things they do is just amazing. Kind of checking up on the chat here. Charlie says, have you heard of P&O Iona? Yes, she is so far the newest ship for P&O Cruises. She was actually built in Meyerwerft Papenburg, like I was just talking about with the Odyssey. She was the ship in front of Odyssey. But she is pretty much a direct sister to the Mardi Gras in the most part. I think actually I had somebody in the comments kind of like try to correct me on this a little bit, but the Mardi Gras, the Iona, the Celebration, the Costa Smeralda, Aida Cosma, Aida Nova, I'm not sure what I just did there. Aida Nova, you know, all those ships are the same class of ships, so they're technically sister ships. They're all under the Carnival Corporation umbrella. The only real difference between these ships is like each cruise line has their own unique features on the ship. Some of them are slightly different in design, especially like with Costa Smeralda compared to Mardi Gras. You're looking at like a Smeralda has like a flat front bumper, or why did I say front bumper, but flat like bow, and then the Aida, same with the Aida Nova, but then the Mardi Gras and the P&O Iona have like that curved bow like a normal ship. But But yeah, she's the largest ship in P&O's fleet right now. She's about 180,000 tons, just like Mardi Gras. She looks like a great ship. And then we had the sister to Aida, or why do I keep saying Aida? The sister to P&O Iona was actually just announced the other day. P&O Arvia, she's going to be done very, very late 2022. So you're looking at like a December 2022, maybe early January, February 2023. P&O Arvia is going to be sailing as well. So, but yeah, they look like great ships. Anything in that, I think that's called like the Excellence class from Carnival Corporation. Amazing ships. Let's see. Jackson says, I wish other cruise lines can do what Royal's done to Coco Cay. I hope Disney will do something similar with Lighthouse Point. Yeah, Lighthouse Point sounds like a really amazing place. I think the coolest thing about Lighthouse Point is that they're taking like conservation into account. So like they're trying to preserve the natural environment of the island the most they can, which is something, I mean, Disney's always been trying to, heavy on stuff like that. I know it sounds kind of weird because, they say they're only going to develop about 80 to 90% of the island, or not 80, like 20% of the island or so, which sounds like they're not going to do anything with it. But if you look at Castaway Cay, I think they only developed about 25% of that island. So, there's a lot they can do with it, and I'm really excited to see what they do with Lighthouse Point. It looks, just the pictures of like the renderings and everything like that, it looks like a really great place. And they're going from 4 ships to 7 ships over the next couple of years, and they're definitely going to need more than one private island. So I'm excited to see it. It's going to be really, really cool. Let's see. Alk61695. I remember seeing the video of the tugboat sinking. Yeah, that was really cool to watch. I actually watched it earlier today because I was watching the videos of Odyssey's river conveyance. I was like, oh yeah, I remember Escapes, and I pulled that up and watched it. She's a sister ship to Britannia. So, yeah, P&O Britannia is going to be she's a different class. She's going to be a little bit smaller. I think there's about a 40,000 ton difference or so between her and the Iona. But it definitely looks like a very, I guess, upscaled version, or like a larger version of Britannia. But yeah, those are going to be pretty much, they look very, very similar, yeah. But both look like great ships. But let's see. Besides that, that's really all for this week's cruise news. It was really great. Very active in the chat this week. It was very fun answering all your questions and interacting with you guys. Let's see. But yeah, that's really gonna be all for tonight's stream. If you guys want to continue talking about cruise ships, I do have a second channel it's pretty much like a video game channel. I just kind of stream video games that I play randomly. But if you guys want to talk about cruise ships with me tomorrow night, I'm going to be streaming on there on my gaming channel. I should have it in the comments and maybe in the description of the video as well if you guys want to check out that channel as well. But I'll be streaming on there 7 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. So if you guys are bored, you want to keep talking about cruise ships, I know I streamed there last night actually, and Justin and Robbie were in the chat with me. We kind of just talked about cruise ships the whole time, and I think I played Animal Crossing or something like that. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning into this week's live stream. It was a lot of fun. Love hanging out with you guys, chatting with you guys, answer your questions. So I will see you guys next week. We're going to make this a weekly thing every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Hope to see you guys next week. Hopefully I see some of you guys tomorrow night over on the other channel. Anyways, thank you for watching. See you guys next week.